80 to 83 is twice as hard. It's very difficult. They really need to look to fall in about half a dozen constituencies to get above 83.
Right. Let's look at the constituencies now. Brian.
Thank you, John. We're going straight to Dún Laoghaire, where Brendan O'Brien is standing by at the count centre there, the five-seater. What news from the tallies, Brendan?
Yes, Brian, well, welcome to Dún Laoghaire, where we can always promise you a little bit of history making, and history is being made today. We have here for Fianna Fáil, running well, Barry Andrews, son of David Andrews, a big vote getter here in Dún Laoghaire, grandson of Todd Andrews, one of the founders of Fianna Fáil. Liam Cosgrave, battling. He's the son, of course, Fine Gael, son of the former Taoiseach, grandson of William T. Cosgrave, head of the Free State government in the early part of this century, and running very well. Another little bit of history, Fiona O'Malley for the PDs, daughter of the former PD leader Des O'Malley. But what about today's history and this five-seater? Well, the tallies, about two-thirds counted at this stage, a reasonably big swing to Fianna Fáil. They will hold two seats. Mary Hanafin will probably top the poll at around 17%. That's what they're saying at this stage. Barry Andrews, yes, will make the dad happy. He's coming in at around 14 to 15%. Eamon Gilmore, a bit of a swing to the Labour Party. He's doing very well at about 14 to 16% and will get a seat. And the big surprise here is Fiona O'Malley of the PDs. Looks fairly certain to take a seat, pretty certain to take a seat. They're saying she's on around 14 to 15% of the vote. Now, that's 4 of the 5 seats, and we haven't yet mentioned Fine Gael. Their vote has collapsed, it seems, to an historic low of around 15.5%, which would be enough to get them a seat, but it's split 3 ways. So
okay,
we could
Brendan,
have a situation.
I'm going to cut across you there because we want to move on to Dublin Central, where well, I see Mary Wilson there. Mary, where are you now? Tell me.
I'm in the RDS. I'm looking after the Dublin Central count. Of course, Dublin Central, the constituency of Taoiseach Bertie Ahern and the deputy leader of the Fine Gael party, Jim Mitchell. Now, 75% of the boxes here have been opened at this stage. And the tally prediction goes like this. They're saying that Bertie Ahern has 29.9% of the vote. Joe Costello of the Labour Party, 13.1%. Dermot Fitzpatrick of Fianna Fáil, 11.3%, Tony Gregory, 17%, and Nicky Keogh of Sinn Féin looking good there at 11.7%. There are some independents then, Patrick O'Donnell, Paul O'Loughlin and Tom Prenderville. They're on from 1.1 to -4 percentage points. And finally, Tom Simpson of the Green Party at 4.5%. Now, no surprises, of course, when I say that Bertie Ahern is going to top the poll here. He will have a substantial surplus, and they will be hoping that that will bring in his running mate Dermot Fitzpatrick.
Okay, Mary, I'm going to cut across you again here because we want to get through as many constituencies as we can, but thank you very much for those first indications. Donna Diamond is in Dublin Southwest. What's the story there, Donna?
The story that's emerging from the tallies here in Dublin Southwest is that of another disaster for Fine Gael and a triumph for Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil. Sinn Féin have been expected by all the parties out here on the ground to take a seat with Sean Crowe, and he is going to take a seat. And on the basis of these tallies, he's at 20.5%. He could even top the poll. He's marginally ahead on the tallies of the other candidates. Fianna Fáil have increased their vote by 10% on the basis of these tallies. We've 98% of the boxes tallied. So they've increased their vote by 10%, and they put a stunning vote management plan into operation, dividing their vote almost exactly between their two candidates, Conor Lenihan and Charlie O'Connor, on 19% each. Labour's Pat Rabbitte does look like he's safe. He's on about almost 17%. So it looks like the Fine Gael poll topper from 1997, Brian Hayes, is going to lose out. He's only on 13%, and privately, Fine Gael people concede that it's very hard to see how he's going to get back into the next stall. So back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much indeed, Donna. John?
And we're now going to look at some of the other constituencies. Kildare North, 100% of the boxes open. This is a Fianna Fáil target. Charlie McCreevy trying to share his vote. And they're at 43.3%. That's up from 35% on the last election. Fine Gael are down from 26% last time, down to 17.5%. That's Bernard Durkin's seat. Labour, much as they were, up a few points. Emmett Stagg's seat is obviously safe. The PDs have 11.8%. That will transfer. It will be very interesting how it transfers to Fianna Fáil. If that could help Fianna Fáil get the second seat, it might be at Bernard Durkin's expense. The Greens are at 6%, and Sinn Féin and others not competing. Kildare South is another constituency where Fianna Fáil are hoping to make a gain, possibly 31% for Fianna Fáil. 12% for Fine Gael. This is Alan Dukes' stronghold. 47% for Labour. This now is the Newbridge boxes only, and therefore a major health warning on this particular tally. This is only from mid-morning, and I think we need to be very careful of these figures. The PDs only at 4%, that's John Dardasey, 13% the last time. He got the highest percentage vote in the country for the PDs, didn't take a seat. The Greens not competing. And finally, in Louth, 45% for Fianna Fáil, 45.5% for Fianna Fáil, 19.3% for Fine Gael, 5.9% for Labour. PDs not competing. The Greens have 4%. Sinn Féin 14.2%. That's a very good achievement for Arthur Morgan of Sinn Féin, and others 11. Brian.
Thank you very much, John. Can we take some more tally counts at this stage? Or should we perhaps take a moment to discuss some of those results? Gareth O'Connor is in Dublin North Central. Thanks very much, Gareth. What news have you got?
Well, Brian, I've got an 85% tally from this four-seater on the north side of the capital city. It's an agreed tally between all the parties. It's showing at the moment Sean Haughey set to top the poll. He's on 18.8%. Ivor Callally, his Fianna Fáil running mate, 17.4%. Deirdre Heaney of Fianna Fáil, the third Fianna Fáil candidate on this ticket, at 13.8%. Richard Bruton of Fine Gael, 12.9%. Derek McDougall of Labour, 10.2%. And Finian McGrath, the Independent Health Alliance candidate, 9.5%. So Callally and Haughey look safe for the first two seats. Fianna Fáil have managed their vote much better this time, spread more evenly. Richard Bruton should get the third seat with the transfer from his running mate Jerry Breen. But the story here will be the dogfight for the fourth seat. Very, very close indeed between Derek McDougall and Finian McGrath. And the transfers in this constituency, Brian, I've seen them myself, are going all over the place. So it could be quite fascinating later on.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Gareth. Ken O'Shea is in Dublin North East. Ken.
Good morning. Dublin North East should be one of the more straightforward constituencies at the RDS here this morning. Just to give you a sense of the logistics, last time out it returned 4 TDs, 2 Fianna Fáil, 1 Labour and 1 Fine Gael. This time it's dropped to 3 seats. So whatever happens here today, somebody is going to be disappointed. At the moment it's looking very much like Michael Joe Cosgrave of Fine Gael is going to be the one to lose out. With all boxes open now, it seems fairly clear that tallymen from all of the parties are fairly confident that the constituency will return Michael Woods from Fine Gael, or from Fianna Fáil, Brady from Fianna Fáil. Tommy Brown will join them for the last seat from Labour. Larry O'Toole of Sinn Féin was polling quite well earlier on in terms of first preferences, but when they started opening boxes from the eastern end of the constituency, more affluent areas like Howth and Sutton, the Sinn Féin vote tailed off considerably, although they have increased their vote by 5%. But there does seem to be cross-party consensus at the moment amongst the tallymen at least that Dublin North East this time out will return 2 Fianna Fáil, 1 Labour, with Fine Gael to lose out.
All right, well I think that's perhaps less surprising than some of the Fine Gael losses which were reporting as indicative at this stage. Orla O'Donnell is in Dublin North West. Orla?
Hello, Brian. Yes, Dublin North West is a tight 3-seater constituency, down from a 4-seater in 1997. I've 100% of the boxes open here, and the story looks like, from the tally figures, that the 2 Fianna Fáil TDs, Noel Ahern and Pat Carey, will retain their seats, with Noel Ahern topping the poll, and that it'll be a fight for the third seat between Sinn Féin's Desi Ellis, who seems to be polling very well on these tally figures, and Roisin Shortall from Labour. The feeling is that transfers from Fine Gael could ensure that Roisin Shortall takes the seat. I'll just run you through some of the percentages. Noel Ahern is at 26.4%, Pat Carey at 21.28%, Roisin Shortall is at 16.5% for the Labour Party. Desi Ellis is at 18.3%, which is a very good showing for Sinn Féin. And Brendan Brady from Fine Gael is at 8.4%, which is a very bad showing for Fine Gael. It's almost, their vote has almost been halved since 1997. Eugene O'Brien from the Green Party is at 2.3%. Michael Larkin from the Christian Solidarity Party at 0.61%. And Sean O'Kearney from the Workers' Party at 2.23%. There's a small swing to Fianna Fáil, 0.63%. Fine Gael is down by 7.5%, and Sinn Féin is doing very well.
All right, Orla, thanks very much indeed. Over to you, John.
And now we're going to take Carlow Kilkenny. They started the tally rather late. The counting and opening of the boxes a bit late in Carlow Kilkenny. Only 27% of the boxes opened, and we need to have a very strict health warning on this, because county loyalty is a very big factor, and Carlow is very keen to have a TD this time. But anyway, for the boxes open so far, Fianna Fáil are running at 52%, Fine Gael at 26%, Labour, that's the old Pattison vote, can it come out now for Labour with Seamus Pattison returned as the Ceann Comhairle at 9%, PD is not contesting this time, the Greens 7%, that really depends on geography, and we haven't been told the bias of these boxes on the graphic, Sinn Féin at 3% and others at 3%. Let's move on now to Longford Roscommon. Here's another Fianna Fáil target. Can they take 3 of the 4 seats? 40% of the poll so far, with about 40% of the boxes counted. Again, geography counts here. Votes don't swim, they say, across the Shannon, and they stay within the county. Fianna Fáil have 40%, Fine Gael down to 27%, Labour not contesting, PDs, May Sexton, I think this would be the Longford boxes first, running at 25%, and Sinn Féin at 4%, but that's only 40% of the boxes counted. In Westmeath, Fianna Fáil again are hoping Donny Cassidy in Castle Pollard to take a second seat, 50.6% on 45% of the boxes counted, 50.6% for Fianna Fáil, 32.9% for Fine Gael, 11.7%. Well, these figures definitely are unfair to Penrose, who will probably head the poll, and there's a strict bias, and the early tallies there are not really worth analysing because they don't show the final picture, which will be Mary O'Rourke taking the second seat, Penrose taking the first, and it's a question of whether then Paul McGrath can hang on for Fine Gael, or whether Donny Cassidy comes through from the eastern part of the constituency. We'll be back with further comment on the early tallies. Some of them tell the full story, some of them are skewed because of geography. We'll be back with the latest on these clues to how the election will turn out just after this break.
Hello again and welcome back to our coverage of the results of election 2002. We're taking a look at some of the tallies around the country, trying to get an impression of what sort of picture has been painted, what they point to in terms of a final result. Let's continue by going to Dublin Midwest, one of the new 3-seater constituencies, an entirely new 3-seater constituency. Annette O'Donnell is standing by with the tallies from Midwest. Annette?
Well, Brian, the tally here was completed just over half an hour ago, but there are 3 boxes, around 1,200 votes unaccounted for, but it is more or less agreed between all of the parties, and what it shows at the moment is that Fianna Fáil's John Curran looks likely to top the poll. He's sitting at around 21% of the vote. It's also been a very good day for Taoiseach and Mary Harney, leader of the Progressive Democrats. She could well be in contention for topping the poll at 20%, but the news, of course, is the 3rd seat, and at the moment it looks likely that Paul Gogarty of the Greens could take it at 13%. He's done very well, particularly in his home base of Lucan. But you can't rule out Fianna Fáil's second candidate, Des Kelly. He's sitting at around 11% and could still be in contention, but it's not really thought that he could take it here. But the news, of course, is that Fine Gael sitting TD Austin Curry will not be returning to the 29th Dáil. He's had a particularly bad day. He's just taken 7% of the poll here in Dublin Midwest.
All right, Annette, thanks very much indeed. Next to Sligo Leitrim, Eileen Magner.
Literally the last box opened here in Sligo Leitrim, but the tally, a very efficient cross-party tally being conducted, is about 2/3 of the way through, but must come with a health warning because it only looks at the Sligo boxes so far. We haven't looked at any of the Leitrim boxes so far in the tally, and they are the areas in which Fine Gael's Jerry Reynolds and Fianna Fáil's John Ellis would expect to get the bulk of their votes. But as it stands, based on the Sligo figures, we have 4 front runners, and they're all very, very close together. Dr. Jimmy Devons of Fianna Fáil is on 18.5%. Just marginally behind Marion Harkin, the independent, who's on 18.6%. John Perry of Fine Gael is on 20.9%, and Eamon Scanlon of Fianna Fáil is on 19.2%. Now, Marion Harkin, the independent, is very optimistic on the basis of those tallies. Fianna Fáil are also quite happy, I think, with their showing so far, but it would appear that the Fine Gael vote is down, but we really will have to wait till the Leitrim tally is done before we can get a complete picture.
That, of course, is Jerry Reynolds' bailiwick, so that hardly gives us a full picture yet. But Cavan Monaghan, another 2-county constituency. Tommy Gorman is there. Tommy?
Hello, Brian. A 5-seater. We should have first count due at around 4 o'clock, a quote of around 10,000. The story here is going to be the performance of the hospital candidate, Pádraig Connolly. It's quite likely he'll take a seat at the expense of Fine Gael. The way things are going, it looks like Rory O'Hanlon and Brendan Smith before him of Fianna Fáil will retain their seats. Andy Boylan of Fine Gael is looking good. Caoimhín O'Callaghan of Sinn Féin is looking rock solid. But Pádraig Connolly looks to have taken 7,000 votes in Monaghan. That's more votes than the entire Fine Gael party combined. There are 3 candidates, and he's looking certain to cause a huge upset here and take a seat. He's benefiting from 2 factors: anger over the hospital issue and anger over health services in general.
All right, Tommy, thank you very much indeed. Fine Gael under pressure, not just in the capital in the east, but in at least that border constituency as well. And as we heard, Sligo Leitrim. Aileen O'Mara is in Dublin South Central. Aileen?
Dublin South Central, Brian, as you know, is now a 5-seater, was a 4-seater, and the big news here is that Sinn Féin's Angus O'Snuddy was topping the poll at 70% of the boxes open. Now, Fianna Fáil are saying he may not top the poll when we actually open at 100%, but at the moment he's running at 4,100 first preferences ahead of everybody else. That's the big news here. Fianna Fáil will take 2 seats here as well, and then Fine Gael will take 1, Gay Mitchell will take 1, even though the Fine Gael vote is down considerably. And then the battle for the final seat will be between the 2 Labour sitting TDs, Mary Upton and Eric Byrne, and a final Fianna Fáil, and nobody is saying who that Fianna Fáil candidate will be. So it could well be at this stage 3 Fianna Fáil, 1 Sinn Féin and 1 Fine Gael, but again it's going to be a long day here at Dublin South Central.
Well, they're used to long days in Dublin South Central. Thanks very much indeed, Aileen. Dublin South East now, Michael O'Kane, or do we have Damien Tiernan? Are we going to Damien Tiernan, who's in Wexford, is that right? Well, I see Damien. I don't know if he can hear or see me. No, there's Michael O'Kane. Michael O'Kane, I said, is in Dublin South East. Michael, what's the story from South East?
Well, Brian, with 100% of the boxes opened, and this is an agreed tally, the big story here, first of all, is that the Progressive Democrats' Michael McDowell is at 18.6% of the vote, so it looks like he'll top the poll. In behind him, outgoing Fianna Fáil TD Owen Ryan at 16.4%, and the Greens' John Gormley at 16.2%. But it looks like there could be a real battle for the 4th seat, with Labour leader Rory Quinn at 12.5%, Chris Andrews of Fianna Fáil at 10.5%, and Francis Fitzgerald of Fine Gael at 10.2%. Labour feel that Rory Quinn's seat is safe, but it could be threatened by Chris Andrews. The Fianna Fáil view on things here is that they think that Rory Quinn could be safe, but they think possibly Francis Fitzgerald may threaten them.
All right, Michael, thank you very much indeed. Damien Tiernan now, as I said, is in Wexford. Damien, that big 5-seater where Fianna Fáil had eyed a further seat, a 3rd seat.
They are, Brian, absolutely. Fianna Fáil are on course for 3 seats here in this very tight 5-seater constituency. It looks like, tallies are still being compiled, but it looks like they are going to get to 3 or 4% swing that they need to get to 3 seats. One of the marked noticeable interesting points here is that the Fine Gael vote in many areas, particularly in the north of the county, has collapsed. Michael Darcy, the outgoing TD, looks like he won't get re-elected. Avril Doyle, the other main Fine Gael candidate here in parts of Wexford, it looks like he's not picking up the votes. Paul Kehoe could be the Fine Gael TD in Wexford. Brendan Howland's polling okay. There will be a massive battle on for the last seat. Final tallies we're expecting in the next half an hour, but it looks like at this stage Fianna Fáil could get the 3 seats out of 5. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Damien. Well, as we can see, a fairly clear picture emerging, a pattern to some of these tallies. John.
We move next to Dublin South, one of the major battlegrounds of this election. Many candidates competing for those 5 seats, and Fianna Fáil are at 36%, Fine Gael at 19%. That's a collapse from where they were in the early 80s. They were way up to 50% and had 3 seats here. Labour at 9%, Ethna Fitzgerald trying to come back. You can win a seat from that base. In this constituency, as many people have shown. PDs at 16%. Now, this is only 35% of the boxes counted, and there is a bit of geography in this constituency, even though it's urban. But Liz O'Donnell would look safe, and the Greens also challenging. So it's going to be one of those tight finishes in Dublin South on these figures. In Wicklow, Fianna Fáil have 33% of the vote. Fine Gael, 18 points. This is only 9% of the boxes opened. I think there are some later figures actually which show slight change on that, but 18.7% for Fine Gael. I think they're going down a bit, 21.7% for Labour. PD's not competing. The Greens have 6.4%, a good showing by Deirdre de Burca, and 2.4% you saw the others. And Waterford, 44.1%. That's a very good performance by Fianna Fáil. They will hold their 2. Fine Gael, John Deasy succeeding Austin Deasy, 14.6% for Labour, 4.9% for the PDs, the Greens 2.8%, Sinn Féin. So no change probably in Waterford, 2-1-1 on those figures. Vincent, you've been looking at some of the constituencies. What's your overall comment?
Surprisingly, Labour is not doing well, or may not do well because of the Sinn Féin surge. Fine Gael, of course, it really is a very disappointing result for Fine Gael. It's hard to say about Fianna Fáil at this stage. They certainly seem to be on the verge of picking up a number of seats, but they're in trouble in a few seats in Cork South Central, for instance. Maybe in Clare they're in trouble.
I think they've lost a seat in Clare.
But nonetheless, you always thought they were vulnerable in a few constituencies, though I didn't personally think they were vulnerable in Clare. I thought they were vulnerable in Kerry North and in Tipperary North particularly, and we'll have to see how that pans out. But what's certain is that Bertie Ahern is going to be Taoiseach, that Fine Gael doing very badly, Labour not doing well, Sinn Féin doing spectacularly well, the Greens doing very well. It is still possible that Fianna Fáil could get over 80 seats.
Noel Whelan, I mean, the Fine Gael are in real trouble. Many of their front benchers are falling, aren't they? Nora Owen last night, Francis Fitzgerald, Jimmy Dean in trouble, Jimmy Deanahan in trouble. An
outside chance against Alan Dukes in Kildare. I mean, the Fine Gael are now in meltdown territory. And the other news stories we're getting by way of New Independence are in the main at Fine Gael expense. I think we've got to watch that. The interesting place I think is going to be the two Kerrys. Because Fianna Fáil may actually hold a seat in Kerry North with Tom McAllister, and down in Kerry South there's even a prospect that 2 Fianna Fáil seats and Jackie Healy-Rae will come back. There's going to be a tussle down there, surprisingly enough.
And that will be 3 on the nomination for Taoiseach.
The same thing has happened in Donegal North East the last time.
Yes.
So although Breda Monaghan may hold on there, Fianna Fáil could pick up a seat there, and in surprising places they may pick up seats, and it's places they weren't expecting, places they were hoping for. They may find it more difficult, and a surprise loss, for example, in places like Clare.
I think it's very hard to see Fianna Fáil and Jackie Healy-Rae getting the 3 seats in Kerry South.
We'll come back to that in a moment. We need to continue with those constituencies we haven't yet looked at, just the tally predictions, some of them complete, some just fractions of the tally with a geographical bias, so there's a health warning on some of what we're saying. Brian.
And I think we're going to Limerick East, is that right, to Cathy Halloran, who's standing by in the constituency of the Fine Gael leader Michael Noonan, a 5-seater, and Michael Noonan was hoping to bring in Mary Jackman with him, the leader effect, if nothing else, delivering 2 for Fine Gael in Limerick East. How's it looking, Cathy?
Yes, well, as you say, a 5-seater, 70% of the boxes tallied. It looks like Mary Jackman could be in with the fighting chance for the 5th seat. No surprises at who's going to top the poll. Fianna Fáil's Willie O'Dea, and then Michael Noonan likely to be elected on the first count. Then Labour's Jan O'Sullivan likely to be returned, and a new TD in Fianna Fáil's Peter Power. And it's likely that there'll be a 3-horse race for the 5th and final seat between Fine Gael's Mary Jackman, the PD's Tim O'Malley, who's polling very well, much better than the polls had indicated, and Fianna Fáil's Eddie Way. Just to give you some percentages, Willie O'Dea on 26.3%, Michael Noonan 19%, PD's Tim O'Malley 9.81%, Jan O'Sullivan 9.7%, Peter Power Fianna Fáil 7%, Mary Jackman 7%, Eddie Way 5%. But 3-horse race for the last 5th and final seat here.
All right, thanks very much, Cathy. From Limerick East to Limerick West, where Adrian Lydon is standing by. This is a 3-seater. Fianna Fáil should have taken 2 of the 3 here last time, but there were internal party difficulties. A rival Fianna Fáil candidate ran under independent banner. Adrian, Fine Gael, what's the news on whether they're going to hold on or whether Fianna Fáil will take back that 2nd seat?
Well, it looks so far that Fianna Fáil are going to take back that seat. The big news so far from the constituency of Limerick West is the success of Senator John Cregan, a newcomer to this election. He is likely to top the poll, and Michael J. Collins, brother of MEP Jerry Collins, is likely to get the 2nd seat. It must be remembered, prior to 1997 there was in-party fighting in Fianna Fáil. It cost them. Fine Gael took a 2nd seat. Dan Neville took it for them. This time round it looks like Fianna Fáil are going to take back that seat. The 100% of the boxes are open so far. It's looking like Senator John Cregan, Fianna Fáil, on 30% of the vote, Michael Collins, Fianna Fáil, on 23%, Michael Finucane, Dan Neville are on 21% each, and the other 3 candidates are faring about 1% each. It looks like the 3rd seat will go down to 2 Fine Gael, Dan Neville and Michael Finucane, with Michael Finucane being the weaker of the 2. Back to you in studio, Brian.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Well, that I think would have been one of the most, from Fine Gael's point of view, one of the most marginal constituencies in the country. We're going now to Tipperary North and to Theresa Mannion. Theresa.
Hi, Brian. Yes, Tipperary North, a 3-seater, 85% of the boxes open at this stage, and Tallymen are predicting no change. 1 independent, 2 Fianna Fáil seats, but not without a struggle. Michael Lowry is looking set to top the poll again, but he's down on 1997 and he's not expected to have enough surplus to close the gap for anyone. Two Fianna Fáil candidates, Michael Smith and Maura Hochter, are polling well. Hochter is ahead on 24% at this stage, and Michael Smith is on 18.6%. Fianna Fáil machine very happy. Local media describing this as superb Fianna Fáil vote management. A lot of 1-2s, 1-2s. Now, Fine Gael's Noel Coonan on 14%. In the last half hour, it's emerged that he has slipped marginally behind Labour's Kathleen O'Mara, who's on 14.4%. So they're struggling neck and neck, but we have to remember the Rosscray and Templemore boxes haven't been opened yet, and they are likely to benefit both Michael Smith and Noel Coonan. We could see, in the event of an elimination of O'Mara, a big battle for that seat between Michael Smith and Fine Gael's Noel Coonan. He is going against the national trend. It's 3% up there for Fine Gael. And the final candidate, PD's Bill Dwan, is on 3.9%.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Teresa. Pascal Sheehy is in Cork with news of the two Cork City constituencies, Cork North Central and Cork South Central, of course, delivering 3 out of 5 in 1997 to Fianna Fáil. Pascal.
Yes, indeed, Brian. There's a very sophisticated tally operation going on behind me here, along with the count in Cork South Central. And the story so far here is really as expected. The Health Minister, Micheál Martin, is polling very strongly with 70% of the boxes tallied, and this is a shared tally between all of the parties. The tally puts Micheál Martin on 26.2% of the vote. The other story here from Cork South Central is that the independent health candidate Cathy Sinnott is polling very strongly and being put by the tallymen in with a strong chance of winning the last seat here. I give you some of the figures from here. Micheál Martin, as I said, 26.2%. His running mate Bat O'Keefe of Fianna Fáil, 12%. In third place is John Dennehy of Fianna Fáil on 11%. Deirdre Clune on 10%. Dan Boyle of the Green Party on 9%. And Simon Coveney of Fine Gael on 7%. Just to explain the weakness at this stage of Simon Coveney's vote, all the boxes tallied are from the city. We've yet to move outside of the city, down the harbour towards Carrigaline and Manan Bridge, Simon Coveney's strong home place, if you like. Turning to Cork North Central, again it's a shared tally between all of the parties, but not quite as sophisticated as South Central. One of the tallymen told me that they missed 6 of the 86 boxes that have been tallied. That's roughly half of the boxes, just over half the boxes. The story from here is that the constituency appears to be running as the polls had predicted, with Noel O'Flynn likely to top the poll, but Fine Gael's vote has dropped significantly here. They got 30% of the vote in 1997. They're now on 19%, in deep trouble. It looks as if Kathleen Lynch of Labour is going to take the seat of Liam Burke, who's retiring, and Jerry Kennelly of Fine Gael, and not making an impression.
All right, thanks very much indeed, Pascal. To Lee Shofley next, and to Kieran Mullooly. This, of course, is where the PD's great hope, Tom Parlin, was campaigning hard over the last number of weeks. How's it looking there?
Well, as I say, Brian, approximately a month ago, a primetime poll told us that the 5th seat and final seat would be between Fianna Fáil and Tom Parlin, and at this early stage in the tally, let alone the count, it looks like it was correct. But it's a very, very slow count here in Portage, one of the slowest in the country, and at the moment we're relying on a tally of just 20% of the votes, most of them from County Laois. However, from that we can tell that Fianna Fáil are going to top the poll once again with Brian Cowan. It would appear at this stage that he will be followed through in the voting this afternoon by John Maloney, Charlie Flanagan and Olwen Enright, leaving the battle for the last seat between Sean Fleming and Tom Parlin. Now, interesting thing about Parlin's vote, he's polled very well in Laois this morning. That surprised a lot of people, including the PDs. After 20 boxes have been opened here, he has over 15% of the first preference votes. But the PDs are still very cautious about that. They're not claiming victory by any means at this stage, because they say in the first bunch of boxes just been opened from Offaly, Mr Parlin hasn't polled that well. Olwen Enright, the Fine Gael candidate, has done so. The other story here, of course, is the fact that Fine Gael's vote is down. It's not a collapse like elsewhere in the country, but Charlie Flanagan's vote is down by 3 or 4 percentage points. Despite that, he should be safe. And the other story, of course, the battle between Fleming and Maloney on the Fianna Fáil side is quite extraordinary. This morning, John Maloney picked up votes all over the place from his colleague, Sean Fleming. That's a surprise, and it's an omen perhaps of the way this battle has been fought among the Fianna Fáil candidates. At the moment, as I say, very early in the tally, it would still appear that Tom Parlin is in there with a fighting chance of taking that 5th seat.
All right, Kieran, well, that is very early in that tally. 20% of boxes is a tally that you offer with the strongest possible health warning. But we'll be back with some more of the tallies after this short break.
Now there's something worth getting out of bed for on Sundays. Something that will transform your whole week. A new kind of Sunday paper for a new Ireland. Ireland on Sunday's unique new package gives you twice the value of any other Sunday newspaper, with all the things you really care about. But it's not just a brilliant paper. Every week you get TV Week, a sensational free magazine with Ireland's most comprehensive weekly TV guide. Plus this week, Mick McCarthy's free giant World Cup wall chart and the chance to win a Mercedes convertible. All for just 50 cents. Yes, 50 cents.
You can afford his own.
Ireland on Sunday. A new Sunday for a new Ireland.
Where has your mind been in the last 10 minutes? Magnum from HB.
Fresh taste and aroma of Nescafe Gold Blend. Inspiring stuff. Full of goodness. Cheese it.
There aren't enough Jedi to protect the Republic. We're keepers of the peace, not soldiers.
I will create a grand army of the Republic.
Begun this Cold War has.
I've got over 100 different tunes, and he keeps playing the same one over and over and help me.
What does your phone say about you?
Life, destiny. Your answer is at the Psychic Zone. Call us now on 1580 278 278. 1580 278 278.
This fabulous Mercedes convertible could be yours. One lucky Ireland on Sunday reader will win this sensational sports car. Start in your Ireland on Sunday, just 50 cents.
Welcome back to election 2002. We're on tallies only. The votes taken out of the boxes open, the tally men see them, and these are usually very accurate indications of how the vote will go. In Cork East, there's no news from there. They've had a slow start, or they haven't started counting yet. In Tipperary South, there may well be no change. Here are the percentages. 38.7, that's up a fraction by Fianna Fáil. 24.6 for Fine Gael, much as they were last time. 11.7 for Labour, and others at 21%, but there will be no change there. It will be Davern, Healy and Hayes. In Cork Southwest, Fianna Fáil are at 43%. This is a target for them. Fine Gael at 34%, so there could be a change. This is on 53% of the boxes, though, and we need to be careful. 7% for Labour and Sinn Féin at 6%. Perhaps Labour and Sinn Féin transfers could determine whether Fine Gael hold on to their 2 seats that they've held since 1981 in that constituency. In Cork Northwest, Fine Gael were overtaken the last time and lost a 2-1 advantage. It was their best constituency for many years. Fianna Fáil looked like delivering no change here, with 50.8% of the vote, with 100% of the boxes counted. These are tally figures only. Fine Gael at 41.5. They haven't made the gain that they were hoping. 6.8% for Labour and the others not competing. And Cork, that is Cork.
Thank you, John. We're going to Mayo, where Joe Little is standing by. Joe, the story from the Mayo 5-seater.
Yes, Brian, in this 5-seater where you have 3 Fine Gael and 2 Fianna Fáil outgoing TDs, the surprise package is the gentleman standing right behind me here, Dr. Jerry Cowley from Mulranny, an independent who has dubbed this Independence Day. He says, and all other party managers agree, that he's on course to take a seat here from Fine Gael. The other people who are bracketed close to him, around 13%, with 40% of the boxes tallied, are Dr. Tom Moffat, the junior Fianna Fáil minister from Ballina, and Michael Ring, the Fine Gaeler who topped the poll here last time. So the intriguing question in both the main parties is who's going to take the second seat for each of them in this 5-seater. In Fine Gael, Jim Higgins in the east of the constituency is just 1 percentage point ahead of his running mate, the outgoing TD, Enda Kenny. And very much may depend on where the fourth man's transfers will go. That's Senator Ernie Caffery's transfers go, as to who will win that second Fine Gael seat.
All right,
There's a similar scenario inside Fianna Fáil, where Beverly Cooper Flynn is fighting it out with John Carty, and her tally people are saying that many of the transfers from Senator Frank Chambers, the fourth Fianna Fáil man, are going to Carty, 2/3 of them in some instances, and that they're not going on to Beverly. But she's confident that if Enda Kenny goes out, she'll get his transfers here in Castlebar.
All right, Joe, thanks very much indeed. To Galway West, where Jim Fahey is standing by, of course, the Bobby Malloy's decision not to run opened up the prospects of a third Fianna Fáil seat, improved Dana's chances perhaps. How's it looking at this stage, Jim?
Well, there's going to be an absolutely monumental battle for Bobby Malloy's seat. This is one of the seats Fianna Fáil had been targeting, but the Progressive Democrats vote has held up extraordinarily well here. In fact, their strategy of running 3 candidates has delivered them a higher vote, we understand, than Bobby Malloy's own total. Fianna Fáil has 2 sitting TDs here, Marine Minister Frank Fahey and Junior Minister Eamon O'Keefe, and they're going to romp home at the head of the poll. The party is hoping that its third candidate, Senator Margaret Cox, a city businesswoman, will take that Malloy seat, but she's now being challenged very strongly, and I think there's some disappointment in the Fianna Fáil ranks that she hasn't polled somewhat more strongly. She's standing on just over 3,200 votes, and that's just 400 votes ahead of the lead Progressive Democrats candidate, Noel Grealish. The feeling is that it will be an absolutely nail-biting finish to see whether the Progressive Democrats can hold that seat. The difficulty is with their strategy is that running 3 candidates, they need a very, very good transfer ratio. At the moment we're hearing that it might be as low as 40 to 50%, which will put it to the pin of their collar, but certainly they're challenging Fianna Fáil very, very strongly for that seat. The other news from the election is that Adana hasn't really polled very well at all. The Greens did quite well, increasing their vote, and the other 2 seats are likely to go to Labour's Michael D. Higgins and to Fine Gael's Pádraig McCormack. There had been some concern that the Fine Gael vote was slipping, but it looks as if that Fine Gael vote is fairly safe.
All right, Jim.
The final and 5th seat will be a really titanic struggle.
Right. Well, it's fascinating and very telling to hear that the PDs are in contention there. Mike Malotte is in Kerry North. Mike, what news have you for us?
Well, in terms of the party lineup, there have been no changes in this constituency over the last 4 elections, but today that could all change, of course, because Martin Ferris looks set to take a seat. That's for Sinn Féin. The tally men have him out in front on first preferences and just 100 votes short of a quota. He seems to have got about 24%, which of course is very high. The big question then would be if Martin Ferris wins, who loses? It had been thought, of course, that he was going to take a seat at the expense of Fianna Fáil, but again, if the tally men are right, that may not now be the case. Fianna Fáil's Tom McAllister looks like he could come in on transfers from his running mate Dan Kiley, and that would leave the third seat to be fought over between Fine Gael's Jimmy Deanahan, Michael Noonan's right-hand man, and former Labour leader Dick Spring. Now, on the first preference tally, Spring was about 20 votes ahead of Deanahan, but there's a feeling that for geographical reasons, Kiley's transfers are more likely to go to Deanahan than to Spring, and of course if that happens we could see a big upset here with Labour the big losers, and that would mean an end to a 60-year dynasty for the Spring family. Back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Mike. With us in studio is Finbar Fitzpatrick, Director of Elections for Fine Gael, and Martin Mackin, the General Secretary of Fianna Fáil. Are we getting into overall majority territory here for Fianna Fáil, Martin?
Well, it's nip and tuck. I mean, there are positive indications from some constituencies. I just see a note here in front of me that that it looks like Charlie McCreevy could bring in his running mate Paul Kelly in Kildare North, which is again something that no pundit would have predicted. It's a bit early yet. Kerry North, the omens are good, despite the fact that the preponderance of polling certainly in that constituency showed us losing a seat. And then you have a situation which has emerged where we're under severe pressure in Clare. We're doing less well than we would have expected in Galway West, though I still think we're very much in contention for that last seat. But it's I think we're a little bit closer to it than we were in the morning, about 2 hours ago, but I think it's far too early yet. I'm particularly delighted with the result for in Limerick West, and I think what is heartening, looking at the results, is we put an awful lot of effort into vote management and created a lot of headaches for ourselves, but it does seem to be paying some dividends.
And there's a kind of each way bet here, because the performance of the PDs suggests that they may well be in a position, if you're short, that handful of seats to make up the difference, and we could see the return of the outgoing coalition.
Well, I think that's quite possible. I think the PDs have had a very good campaign. They've had a very tidy campaign. They focused it quite correctly, decided to just put all their energy into a small handful of seats and a small handful of candidates, and clearly that's paying off. Obviously, I hope my former Mount Street colleague and TD now, Sean Fleming, hangs on in Laois Offaly. Hopefully he will, and that he'll come through later in the day.
Finbar Fitzpatrick, what is happening to the Fine Gael vote?
Well, certainly, obviously, the party is taking a hit in a large number of constituencies. It would look as if Fianna Fáil would be close to 80 seats, maybe plus or minus one at the end of the day. The electorate, I think, as well, in addition to opting to support Fianna Fáil in a stronger way than they did in the last election, have, I think, decided to use the PDs as the watchdogs, and that they have come through somewhat stronger than was anticipated. And the likelihood is that for the first time since '69 we'll have an outgoing government re-elected.
And that accounts in some constituencies for damage being inflicted on Fine Gael, but it's across the board, isn't it? I mean, your candidates are suffering at the hands of the PDs, at the hands of Labour, and at the hands of Fianna Fáil. You seem to be assaulted on all sides.
Yes, I mean, the drop in the Fine Gael vote has been through the country, has varied at its worst in Dublin, but we are under pressure in a number of constituencies where we certainly hadn't anticipated.
Even independents, for example, in Mayo we saw there an independent candidate.
Well, in the strange things here, hospital, we know an independent candidate in Mayo with an emphasis on health services, similarly in Cavan Monaghan, would seem to be more likely to damage an opposition party, as in Fine Gael, rather than the government party. We're under pressure in North Kerry, which is one that, while we knew it would be tight, we didn't realise it would be quite as tight as it is, even though there's still a reasonable chance that Jimmy Dean will hold his seat.
How profound, how searching, how fundamental must be the Fine Gael post-mortem now after this election?
I think we'll defer discussing the post-mortem until we see the outcome, the final result, because the former Deputy Leader, Noel Owen, has lost a seat. Jim Mitchell is certainly under pressure. There was reference to Alan Dukes in Kildare, even though I think that has to do with the incomplete tally. So I think that's something for discussion this time tomorrow rather than today.
What about the performance, Martin Mackin, of some of the smaller parties? We've mentioned the PDs. Sinn Féin polling really very strongly and expected to hit perhaps the upper range of its expectations.
Yeah, I think it's been symptomatic of Irish politics in the last 10, 15, 20 years of a fragmentation across the political spectrum, a balkanisation of the vote, if you like. I think Sinn Féin are going to do well. I think certainly the indications are speaking to people in my home county of Louth yesterday, that they had a big effort in to get out the vote. While I'm from Louth, my vote, and I live in Dublin South Central, and it was clear that Ingus O'Snoddig was putting in a strong performance there. And if Sinn Féin are going to take seats, it's in 5 seaters like that. But the indications are that O'Snoddig will do much better than expected. Far from getting the last seat, he may even get the first or second seat.
But you mentioned this balkanisation. It's really, that's only half the picture, isn't it? Because on the other hand, you have Fianna Fáil consolidating its position. If this is the Balkans, then maybe Fianna Fáil are the Serbs. You're the biggest beast in the jungle. Clearly.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd like to extend that metaphor too much, but our vote has held very solid. We didn't suffer any great loss in our support, evidently, over the course of the campaign. I think the issue of this, it's something of a red herring, the size of our vote, the fact if we get 43, 44, 45. What really matters is the vote management in specific target constituencies, marginal constituencies, and the level of transfers, which I think we really have to tease out a little bit further.
And of course having the votes to manage, which is
correct.
The point from which you start.
Yes.
All right, John.
And bad news, as we've heard in many parts of the country, for Fine Gael, but in Galway East they're trying to hold on to their 2. Let's see how the tallies are going. 100% of the boxes opened, and we have a result rather like we had on the last occasion. Fianna Fáil on 48%, Fine Gael on 31%, and the last time with good vote management Fine Gael held the 2 seats. It was 2-2, and it looks like it might remain the same. Labour not contesting, PDs neither. Greens on 2.1, 3.8, 14.9. That's Paddy McHugh independent, and his transfers could decide it. Donegal South West, here are the figures. 38% for Fianna Fáil, 32% for Fine Gael. That'll be 2-1 again, and you can see the rest. Whether Jim White replaces Dinny McGinley is the key question there. And we don't have Donegal North East yet on graphics, but I think there will again be no change. Noel Whelan, overall, what's your verdict, and have you found any constituencies that you would like to put in a second opinion on?
Well, the first, I'll come back to those, to Kildare South and Kerry South are the 2 I keep coming back to. There is now actually a full tally in Kildare South, and on the basis of that it's going to be decided by John Dardis's transfers between, I think, one Fianna Fáil, Jack Wall for Labour, and Dukes himself. The last time, interestingly, Dardis had 4,000 when he was eliminated. 3,000 of them went to Fianna Fáil, but at that point Dukes was elected. So we haven't seen the PD Fine Gael transfer rate in Kildare South yet, and that'll be interesting. In Kerry South, again, Jackie Healy-Rae, Tom Fleming, the Killarney-based, Fianna Fáil candidate, has proved a surprise, although not a surprise to Fianna Fáil, they will say, and they will get 2 seats.
Perhaps a surprise to John O'Donoghue, but not to himself.
Not to himself, and I think partly the row between John O'Donoghue and Jackie Healy-Rae meant Tom Fleming could go off and work and nobody was watching him. And therefore there's a Killarney factor here, because I think 3 of the independents in Fine Gael that are there to be eliminated first are Killarney-based. Tom Fleming will take so will Breda Moynihan, and the breakdown of those transfers will make a difference there, I think. Fine Gael are in real trouble. I mean, I was always conservative about the concept of a Fine Gael meltdown. I think 40 is a psychological figure. And I think at the basis of this, they're going to be below it. Whether Fianna Fáil gets many extra seats as a result of that, given the independents and other factors.
And Sinn Féin and the Greens are all doing, independents, Sinn Féin and the Greens are doing exceptionally well, aren't they?
Which I suppose we expected in advance, but the PDs are doing exceptionally well. I mean, McDougall is topping the poll in South East. Fiona O'Malley's in with a real chance in Dunleary. Parland, if he does win, it could be at Fianna Fáil's expense.
Fine Gael's expense.
At Fine Gael's expense.
Charlie Flanagan's expense. Is that right?
Well, it's too early to say.
We
only have leash tallies. Yeah. But the PDs will be gloating that the pundits were writing them off. They're now going to be back with 3 or 4. And even the Galway West one is interesting, although I think it's still not resolved whether that will just be a battle between Fianna Fáil and the PDs. It could be a battle between Fianna Fáil, PDs and Fine Gael.
Yeah. Vincent Brown, the party system.
Just looking at the situation as a whole, going into this election, Fianna Fáil had 76 seats. They needed a further 8 to get an overall majority. They have lost, it appears, a seat in Clare, so that they need 9. I reckon that they are in contention in 13 constituencies for that extra seat. So, admittedly, things would need to go pretty well for them, but they're going to be close to an overall majority, if not an overall majority. I disagree with Noel, who's been talking about Fianna Fáil being less than 80 seats. I think they'll certainly be over 80, close to an overall majority, and they may do it.
No. One thing is decided. Bertie Ahern is the next Taoiseach. All to be decided is whether he can do it on his own with independents, or whether, because the PDs are now at 4 or 5, Bertie Ahern is definitely the next Taoiseach.
And he has offered them positions in cabinet even if he didn't need them. They've said no thanks to that. They would only go in if there were serious leverage within the government. But he could fall just that little bit short where to be comfortable he'd need them. That might be a nice balance,
and
that question.
And where it might be more comfortable to have 5 of them than to have some of the independents. And I mean, especially if the shape of the independent has changed. If Jackie Healy-Rae has gone, I'm not sure he would get on as well with James Breen, for example, in Clare, if he comes in as that independent. And also there's a health and regional. I mean,
there's a Western alliance of independents, isn't there? Particularly if Marion Harkin
irrespective of the alliance, there's a mood in the west of Ireland, west of the Shannon, which has been saying to hell with both parties, which is concerned about regional development issues and health services. It's happening in Sligo. Leitrim was obvious. There's going to be an element of it in Roscommon, Longford, because Mayo Sexton is a hospital candidate initially. It's happened in Mayo now.
There are 2 hospital candidates there, aren't there?
It's happened in Mayo, and I didn't expect it would go as south as Clare, but it's there now in Clare as well.
What are the implications, Vincent, for Michael Noonan's leadership, do you think?
Oh, I assume he's gone. That's it. But the interesting thing is that several of the potential new leaders of Fine Gael are in trouble. Like Alan Dukes, people were talking about Alan Dukes coming back as leader of Fine Gael while he's in trouble in Kildare South. Enda Kenny and Jim O'Higgins, the two of the 3 Fine Gael TDs in Mayo, are one or other looks as though they'll lose out, probably Enda Kenny. So Fine Gael is in very considerable disarray. It's not just that they will have lost seats, there isn't an obvious person to take over the leadership and revive the party.
And in the same vein, although I put a health rider on the Wexford tallies because they're very north Wexford, Avril Doyle doesn't come back. She's one of the other options that they might have looked to.
At the early stages, Brendan Howlin is always said to be in trouble, but in Wexford they count the Gory boxes first. And so
when you come down to Wexford Town, this battle is in Wexford Town and Wexford between Tony Dempsey, Avril Doyle and Brendan Howlin. Whichever one of them comes strongest out of Wexford Town is what will affect the final result. Brendan Howlin's seat is safe.
You're a real expert on Wexford. I mean, Wexford Town very often it finds it hard to bring in more than 1 TD, doesn't it?
Well, it had only 1 TD, and now, in a sense, for Fianna Fáil and Avril Doyle, for Fianna Fáil to win 3 and Avril Doyle to win the Fine Gael seat, there would have to be 3 TDs in Wexford Town: Brendan Howlin, Tony Dempsey and Avril, and that would be difficult. There's one complicating factor. Ivan Yates got a phenomenal Church of Ireland vote, and where that goes will be interesting.
Right. Brian.
Thank you very much, John. Well, Vincent Browne was raising the question of the post-mortem for Fine Gael after this, the question of the leadership, Finbar Fitzpatrick. Is that the case? Is Michael Noonan gone after this if these results are borne out?
That's a debate that I'm not prepared to participate in at the moment at all.
And yet we had his predecessor, your former leader, John Bruton, saying last night that Fine Gael really does need to look at its role in Irish politics, that it needs to review, to carry out a really very fundamental review of what its purpose is.
Well, obviously, after a significant defeat, which will be the case in this election, it will have to have a major review of itself, of the order that it had, say, post the 1977 general election. Now, what the outcome of that will be remains to be seen, but I think it's a bit early to be starting that post-mortem or review in the middle of the actual count.
It's made very much more difficult if you have a sizable number of high-profile leading figures in the party losing their seats as well, isn't it?
Well, a number of the high-profile people certainly are under pressure. How many of them will lose their seats at the end of the day remains to be seen. And as I say, that discussion I think is a bit premature. We can talk about the constituencies today and about that next week.
All right, Finbar Fitzpatrick, thank you very much. Thanks also to Martin Mackin for joining us as well, and to all our guests this afternoon for this special programme bringing you news of the tallies. There's a full news bulletin immediately following this programme, and we will be back at 3 o'clock for the start of our continuous coverage of the results of election 2002. We do hope you can join us then. Until then, a very good afternoon to you.
Crazy Capers as the comic crew join the army. Carry on, Sergeant, at 1:20. Radio Telefi Sheridan, you're watching RTE1. It's time now to join Uno Hagen in the newsroom.
Hello and welcome to the 1 o'clock news. The headlines this lunchtime. Counting in the general election continues. Early tallies indicate a strong performance for Fianna Fáil. Fine Gael look likely losers. Sinn Féin, the Greens and Independents to make gains. The PDs may get 4 seats. The first big-name casualty, former Fine Gael Minister Nora Owen, loses her seat in Dublin North.
Absolutely devastated. I did not expect it to happen. I suppose we all stand for a seat and hope to win it.
Good afternoon. Counting is continuing in the general election, with early tallies indicating Fianna Fáil are doing well. They also indicate a poor performance by Fine Gael, particularly in Dublin, with Sinn Féin, the Greens and Independents expected to pick up seats. The PDs are in with a reasonable chance of returning with 4 seats. So far, Fianna Fáil have won 6 seats, Fine Gael 2, Labour 3, including Seamus Pattison, who was automatically elected as Ceann Comhairle, PDs 0, Greens 1, Sinn Féin 0, and Joe Higgins of the Socialist Party gets the other seat. In the 3 constituencies that voted electronically, the results have shown strong performances for Fianna Fáil, Labour and the Greens. But support for Fine Gael was down on the last general election, and the party's former deputy leader, Nora Owen, lost her seat in North Dublin. Fianna Fáil, with G.V. Wright and Jim Glennon, took 2 seats in the constituency. The Green Party leader, Trevor Sargent, topped the poll, and Labour's Sean Ryan retained the seat he won in a by-election. In Dublin West, Joan Burton of Labour won back the seat she lost in 1997, with Fianna Fáil's Brian Lenihan topping the poll. Joe Higgins of the Socialist Party was also returned. In Meath, there was no change in the party numbers, with 3 seats going to Fianna Fáil, with former Taoiseach John Bruton winning 1 of 2 seats for Fine Gael. In the first of our reports, Deirdre McCarthy has been looking at the latest indications around the country.
Probably the last traditional election count. The tallymen were out in force from early morning in the 39 constituencies left to be counted. Early tallies are indicating a poor performance by Fine Gael, particularly in Dublin, with Sinn Féin, the Greens and Independents expected to pick up seats. An exit poll carried out for RTE gives Fianna Fáil 43% of the vote, and the tallies indicate the party is doing well, but whether or not that means an overall majority is too early to tell. A number of high-profile Fine Gael candidates appear to be in trouble, including frontbench spokesperson Alan Shatter in Dublin South and outgoing deputy Brian Hayes in Dublin South West. Austin Curry looks likely to lose his seat in Dublin Midwest. It looks like good news for the Progressive Democrats, with party leader Mary Harney and Liz O'Donnell doing well, and Michael McDougall topping the poll in Dublin South East. Tallies also indicate that the party could pick up a new seat in Dún Laoghaire with Fiona O'Malley. Sinn Féin are also likely to pick up seats. In Dublin South West, Sean Crowe looks likely to top the poll. In Dublin North West, Sinn Féin's Desi Ellis looks set to battle it out for the 3rd seat with Labour's Roisin Shortall. In Dublin Central, Sinn Féin's Angus O'Snowdick is polling strongly, as is Arthur Morgan in Louth. Both are in with a chance of taking a seat. There may also be a few surprises, with independent candidate James Breen, a former Fianna Fáil member, likely to top the poll in Clare, and the independent health candidate Catherine Sinnott in with a chance of the final seat in Cork South Central. The first results are expected later this afternoon. Deirdre McCarthy, RTE News.
In the 3 constituencies that voted electronically, the results showed a strong performance by Fianna Fáil, Labour and the Greens. For Fine Gael, however, support was down, and the party's former deputy leader and former minister Nora Owen lost her seat.
On a night of mixed emotions, the real drama came in Dublin North, where the former Fine Gael deputy leader Nora Owen lost out.
And those elected were as follows: Trevor Sargent, Sean Ryan, Jim Glennon and G.V.
Naturally, I'm absolutely devastated. I did not expect it to happen. I suppose we all stand for a seat and hope to win it. I felt I had put in the work, and I felt I was getting good reaction on the doors.
Dublin West entered the history books early today when it became the first of the 3 electronic constituencies to declare.
Brian Lenihan, Fianna Fáil, Joe Higgins, Socialist Party, and Joe Burton.
There was a 56% turnout in Dublin West as Labour's Joan Burton won back the seat she lost in '97, while Brian Lenihan of Fianna Fáil topped the poll and was the first man elected to the 29th Dáil.
I'm very pleased to be so honoured by the people of Dublin West to be the first elected in the constituency and the first elected in Ireland. It's a great honour.
The minister who introduced electronic voting, Noel Dempsey, was the first man home in Meath, where Fianna Fáil took 3 seats. John Bruton and Damien English took the other seats for Fine Gael. Eamon Falvey, RTÉ News.
And Annette O'Donnell is standing by now in Mary Harney's constituency of Dublin Midwest. Annette.
Well, Una, good news for the Green Party here and bad news for Fine Gael, or more bad news for Fine Gael. There was a quick tally here in Lucan agreed by all of the parties, just 3 boxes missing from it. That's around 1,200 votes. What it's telling us at the moment is that Fianna Fáil's John Curran looks set to top the poll. He's standing at around 21%, but it's been a very good day for Taoiseach Mary Harney. She's at around 20% and could still top the poll here as well. The news, of course, is in the 3rd seat. At this stage, it looks likely that it will go to Paul Gogarty, a new candidate for the Green Party. He's sitting on around 13% of the vote here. But of course we can't rule out the second Fianna Fáil candidate, Des Kelly, who has polled a strong 11%. But the other big news here, of course, is the imminent departure from the political scene of Fine Gael's Austin Curry. A very bit disappointing day for him and his constituency, polling just around 7%, not likely to be returning to the 29th Dáil. The first count is expected here, Una, in Lucan in around about an hour's time.
Thank you, Annette. And to Mayo now, where the independent candidate Jerry Cowley is doing well. Standing by is Joe Little.
Yes, Una, we've just had a final official tally from the parties. It shows Michael Ring of Fine Gael topping the poll at 15%, followed by the gentleman beside me, Dr. Jerry Cowley, the surprise package, the independent candidate from Mulranny. The political parties are saying your 13.58% is enough to get you elected. Do you believe it is?
I certainly do, and I'm very grateful to the people of Mayo for giving me this, but I think it's the people of Mayo have given a very strong message to government and to the parties that we do matter, that we do exist down here. Failure to deliver an infrastructure of health, of social and economic activity down here, we have been left behind and we are fighting back, and the people are saying the strongest possible political parties, we do exist down here actually, and we do matter, and we're seeking a level playing pitch. We're seeking equality down here.
A strong protest vote. Any idea which Fine Gael seat you're going to take, looking at those figures?
I don't know. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. I need to be there for Mayo. We need to do the work before 2006, and I'm determined to do it. Along with Marion Harkin, who's doing very well, by the way. I would say Independence Day today for Jerry Cowley, Marion Harkin, Sligo and Mayo. We're going all the way, Association of Independents, to do the business for this area here, which has been sorely neglected, and for Mayo. That's our bottom line.
Thanks very much, Jerry Cowley, for...
Joe Little in Mayo. Now, Sinn Féin could be about to make a gain in Dublin North West. Orla O'Donnell has more on that.
Well, Una, it's very tight in Dublin North West at the moment, and Sinn Féin are in the running for the 3rd seat, but at the moment it looks like the Labour Party will just shade it. On the tally figures, which is a 100% tally of Dublin North West, Noel Ahern of Fianna Fáil will top the poll, Pat Carey will get the 2nd seat, and it'll be a battle between Desi Ellis of Sinn Féin and Roisin Shortall of the Labour Party for the 3rd seat. At the moment, according to the tally figures, Desi Ellis is around 460 votes ahead of Roisin Shortall, but the feeling even amongst the Sinn Féin people here is that's not enough to see him elected. Fine Gael's Brendan Brady is likely to be eliminated, and it's thought likely that his transfers will go to Roisin Shortall. However, the tally people are saying that the transfers are going everywhere, and they're not ruling Desi Ellis out at the moment. The first count is expected here at around 2:30 when we'll know more.
Thank you, Orla. Our Southern editor, Pascal Sheehy, has been watching the tallies in Cork, and it looks as if there'll be no Munster bounce for Michael Noonan.
Well, Una, the ball has bounced all right. Unfortunately, it's bounced very badly for Fine Gael here in Cork. In Cork City, the party's vote in the 2 Cork City constituencies is down about 11%, and that means that the party, according to the tallymen, is likely to lose a seat in North Central. I think that was expected, but what wasn't expected is that the party is also in danger of losing a seat in Cork South Central, and at the moment the tally people are saying that Simon Coveney, Fine Gael's assistant chief whip, is in greater danger of losing his seat than the other sitting Fine Gael TD, Deirdre Clune. And across the county, Fine Gael had been hoping to make a gain in Cork North West through Gerard Murphy. They will hold a seat in Cork North West, but they will not make a gain. That's according to tally figures there. And in Cork East, the one ray of hope, I suppose, for the party at this stage, they were in danger there. David Stanton was in danger of losing his seat, but he appears to be safe at this stage. But very bad news for Fine Gael in both Cork North Central and Cork South Central.
Well, Michael McDowell may be about to make a comeback for the Progressive Democrats in Dublin South East. Our reporter Michael O'Kane is watching that count.
Indeed, Una, and with a 100% agreed tally, the big news here is the great performance by the Progressive Democrats, the collapse of the Fine Gael vote, and Labour Party leader Rory Quinn could be facing a long afternoon and early evening before he can finally secure his seat. Michael McDowell, 18.6% of the vote. Obviously, his high-profile campaign has paid off. Owen Ryan of Fianna Fáil and John Gormley of the Greens are also expected to take seats. But it looks like there's been no leadership bonus for Rory Quinn. He's in at around 12.5%, with Francis Fitzgerald of Fine Gael battling for that last seat. What it seems to be at the moment is both the Progressive Democrats, Fianna Fáil and Labour believe that at the end of the day, Rory Quinn will secure his seat, and it could be the Daithí Doolan transfers from Sinn Féin. He polled about 7%. That's in likelihood what's going to do it for him.
Michael O'Kane in Dublin South East, thank you. Now, we're joined from the RTE Count Centre by our political correspondent, David Davin-Power. David, what's the overall pattern that's been emerging?
Well, Una, it's early days yet, but the picture emerging of this count is one of a steady performance by Fianna Fáil, something of a resurrection being predicted for the PDs, as you saw there, with up to 5 seats for the party, but unrelenting gloom for Fine Gael, with many senior figures in trouble, particularly in Dublin, people like Jim Mitchell, the party's deputy leader, Alan Shatter, the Justice spokesman, and in Kerry North reports that Jimmy Deanahan too could be in trouble. Labour will be disappointed with their performance, as these tallies show. There's no sign of any breakthrough for the party, despite what they felt was a strong campaign by Rory Quinn. Now, as expected, Sinn Féin are doing well across the country. They're poised to take more than 4 seats. Candidates like Angus O'Snothy in Dublin, Arthur Morgan in Louth, Desi Ellis perhaps not as likely to take that seat in North West as his supporters had hoped earlier on in the morning. But Sinn Féin will certainly double, treble or maybe even quintuple their total. Independents have been putting in a terrific performance, polling well across the country, although one of the most prominent among their number, Jackie Healy-Rae, he's fighting for his life in Kerry South. Now, it's too early for official figures. We're going on tallies, but an exit poll carried out for RTE last night gave Fianna Fáil 43% of the nationwide vote. That's up 4 on the 1997 result. Fine Gael are down 6 points, as you can see there, at 22%. The survey puts Labour on 12, the PDs on 3, the Greens on 4, Sinn Féin on 7 points, and others at 9%.
Well, what are the overall implications for the next government?
Well, Una, Fianna Fáil are winning seats, but they're likely to lose them as well. And on an exit poll figure of 43%, if that's borne out, they would want a very substantial seat bonus to make it up to 84. Making it up to 80 from their current total would be difficult, and 80 seats between 80 and extra seats between 80 and the magic figure will be like pulling teeth. So as things stand, the odds on an overall majority are lengthening considerably. But perhaps the question at this point of the count is, will the outgoing coalition themselves have an overall majority without the support of the independents, with the Fianna Fáil vote holding up and likely to put on seats, and the very strong performance from the PDs, that looks like it might be a strong possibility.
So Bertie Ahern and Fianna Fáil were right to be cautious about the opinion polls forecasting an overall majority for them.
Well, they were certainly right to be cautious about the opinion poll that gave them 50%. I think there'll be a lot of head scratching about that particular result. The 43% that was shown in the RTE exit poll accords with the kind of thing that Fianna Fáil backbenchers were saying towards the end of the campaign, but we'll have to wait and see.
David Davin-Power, thank you for talking to us. Well, we're joined now in studio by our political boffin, Nicky Coffey. Nicky, you've been looking very closely at the tallies. Where are the big stories?
Well, first and foremost, I just jotted down some names before I came into the studio here in Dublin. Brian Hayes, Jim Mitchell, Michael Joe Cosgrave, Austin Curry, Francis Fitzgerald, Alan Shatter. Top names in Fine Gael, all likely to take a tumble. It's an extraordinary situation that the Fine Gael is, as David alluded to there. Outside it, people like Alan Dukes are in trouble. Fine Gael could end up without a deputy in either of the Kildare constituencies. So already at this stage, the big story is how bad I knew a lot of people felt that we're going to do badly, but as bad as this, nobody could figure it out. They could end up without a seat in Clare, where there is an extraordinary story where Mr. James Breen, an independent, looks poised to take a seat. Initially it looked that it could be at Fianna Fáil's expense, still could be at Fianna Fáil's expense, but there's a lot of nervousness, I know, within Fine Gael down there. So that's one big story. You saw Dr. Cowley there. Another big story. The PDs. Now, tell Mary Harney, get that humble pie ready, because I think there's going to be a long list of us, and I'm prepared to take the first place.
Take the fall.
They have done magnificently. A lot of people, I mean, the most written-off party in recent history, people like Fiona O'Malley, Michael McDowell, what a performance, what a battler, you know, an extraordinary performance.
But it's not just about Fine Gael or the PDs. I mean, Fianna Fáil, there's some big names. Mary O'Rourke looks like she might be in trouble in Longford, Westmeath.
Yeah, it's a fascinating development there. Donny Cassidy, one of the most colourful figures around Leinster House for a long time, looks set to take a seat there, leaving Paul McGrath, Fine Gael and Mary O'Rourke battling. It's always been, I remember in 1973, Mary O'Rourke's brother Brian Lanahan, a minister, losing a seat in Roscommon. You always have major upsets like we saw last night with Nóra Owen.
And what about Rory Quinn? He's not safe.
Rory, unfortunately for Rory, there's an element of deja vu. He's always he struggled 20 years ago. He always struggled and sneaked in. Nobody saw him in this type of battle this time. He probably will make it, but it'll be a close call for him.
So, two stories from this. One, Fianna Fáil will be back in government.
Bertie Ahern will be the Taoiseach.
Bertie Ahern will be the Taoiseach, and Fine Gael will go below 40 seats.
I think they'll go below 40 seats, yeah.
Nicky Coffey, thank you for talking to us. And the main news again. The counting of votes in the general election is continuing. Early tallies indicate that Fianna Fáil, as predicted, is doing well, as are Labour, the PDs, Sinn Féin, the Greens and Independents. All are expected to add to their vote last time out. But the election is not going well for Fine Gael. That's it from the newsroom for now. Election coverage continues at 3 o'clock on television. There'll also be hourly updates from 4 o'clock. Our next main news bulletin is at 6:01. Till then, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thankfully, yesterday's heavy rain is now a thing of the past. That rain had swept up from France, heading towards Scotland now, with the remaining clouds starting to brighten up. So that means conditions certainly improving through the afternoon with spells of sunshine. Some showers, though, will pop up and they will tend to become more widespread as the afternoon progresses. Mild again today, highest temperatures ranging between 15 and 18 degrees Celsius and not feeling as humid as yesterday, and that'll be due to the effects of a moderate southwesterly breeze. Another mild night in store, typical temperatures between 8 and 10, and while conditions will be mostly dry, patches of mist and fog are set to develop, with a few showers arriving in the southwest towards morning. Looking now at the broader picture for tomorrow, and by that stage we'll have an area of low pressure to our northwest with a weather front lying over us. So while many areas in the north and east will have a dry start, that rain will arrive in the west and also in the southwest, with conditions then switching during the afternoon as the rain gets over to the northeast, with the brighter conditions starting to arrive then in the south. Quite breezy tomorrow with a blustery southerly wind, but nevertheless still mild for tomorrow. Temperatures in the mid to high teens. So to finish up, no fear of that heavy rain again today. This afternoon will bring us showers, but most importantly, some sunshine too.